Okay, welcome back to the channel, you guys. Happy Monday. Whoa, Monday. We love Mondays. Actually, I don't. I'm a big proponent of not liking Mondays. I don't know if you guys can relate, but I definitely am not a huge fan of Mondays. Tuesdays, I really don't like. Wednesdays, so on and so forth, and as the weekend comes, then I get a little bit more cheerful. But this morning, as a warm-up, I decided to do a couple character faces. I've been doing that pretty regularly. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the warm-up faces. Just to keep building up that repertoire of character faces. And today I'm working in graphite on Bristol boards. So I'm using this woodless pencil. Over the weekend I went into what I like to refer to as civilization, because I live in the mountains, and literally there's not a lot in the means of what I would refer to as civilized shopping. So I went to Hobby Lobby and I was going to buy a wooden holder for my pencil, and unfortunately there was about 1 billion people there, and there were so many rules in place for social distancing and just everything else, and it made it such an unpleasant event that I just decided to skip it. So yeah, I use shopping sometimes. They call it shop therapy. I'm not really a shopper, I'm more or less a buyer, if some of you people can relate. I don't particularly like shopping overall, but I do like shopping for art supplies. So I couldn't get what I wanted, unfortunately. This morning I'm doing a couple ogres, just because I can. So I'm going to be using a couple different pencils today, my woodless pencil and of course my Blackwing. I really like the Blackwing because of the lead that's in it. It's just wonderful. Little known fact, there is no actual lead in pencils. It's not lead. And it's graphite. I think in the old days, way back when, way before my time of course, they did have lead, and eventually it moved over to graphite. But that being said, ogres. So what makes an ogre an ogre? I was a huge Dungeons and Dragons guy growing up. I did many campaigns in my early years and also into my teen years. I was a big-time Dungeons and Dragons gamer with my buddies in high school, and of course I did that in addition to drawing, in addition to some sports, in addition to music. I was more or less forming the way I do things now as a generalist, really adding all these things to my tool belt. But what Dungeons and Dragons did was expose me to the whole kind of mythical creature universe. I remember going through and searching through the not spirit guide, but the Dungeon Master guide, and also the Monster Manual, and I really enjoyed doing that, and I would always come up with incredible campaigns for the players, because I was typically designated the Dungeon Master, because I had the ability to facilitate really complex campaigns off the fly, just using my imagination. And that was something that some of the other guys that I hung out with couldn't do. I was always coming up with really complex things, and I made it fun. And that's another thing, I had to make the gameplay fun. And of course, during that time, there wasn't a lot of video games. There were some. I think Doom was coming out, and Mario was popular, and this is early 90s, when I was in high school. I graduated in 92. for those of you who are wondering. Let's go and make this up a little bit further. And I really enjoyed, you know, looking and discovering the different monsters. And I had played since I was in junior high with some older guys that really helped me understand the dynamic of how gameplay should be. And one of the creatures was an ogre. And I remember the ogres were, some of them were hard to kill. And they just have a really robust strength about them. And some of them are smart. And, you know, had your goblins and your ogres and your hobgoblins and all these creatures that, you know, previous to getting to Dungeons and Dragons, I only heard through mythical stories and, you know, just some of that stuff we do as kids in Discovery, you know, and trolls. Man, I remember discovering trolls and how wicked, scary they were. I remember that trolls were scary. They were big, scary, and pretty powerful and hard to kill. And, you know, getting into some of the other creatures. And it was just neat, you know. Let's go ahead in here. What I'm doing is I'm putting in a roadmap, sort of, for the you know, the overall design of this character. You know, having these really large brows helps emote pretty well. Still, you know, it's got that elongated jaw that comes down. It's kind of come out a little bit more. And that lip comes right here. And he's got this huge upper lip because he's got to facilitate these large tusk-like teeth. I think one of the really incredible movies that really showcased the power of the ogres was the World of Warcraft movie years ago. And although a lot of people don't like that, but I thought it was pretty cool. The design of them was really solid and really helped kind of let you understand that lore of the ogre. I know I didn't play World of Warcraft, so I can't really get into the minutia of the different tribes and whatnot and the humans, and I really don't know, so I'm not going to embarrass myself. But ogres in general, to me, are really just really cool. You know, really powerful. You know, let's have that lip come around here. Okay. Fix this nose. This nose to be a little bit higher. And I don't want to erase. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start drawing in what I want. And then I'll elongate and shape as needed with different shadowing. If that makes any sense to you guys. There we go. Correct as I go. Oop, I'm running out. I'm going to have these hair braids come around. Alright, let's go ahead and get into the eyes a little bit more. The eyes are just a little bit too big for my taste, but I'm going to go ahead and let that fly because I don't really want to go in and start erasing. Okay. It's got this head that comes around. It's kind of shaved. Got these ears. Kind of hidden by the hair. It's got a beard. Okay. I don't have any graphite. The other day, when I was drawing for you guys, I touched the screen, or not the screen, I touched the paper, and then I ended up scratching my head. And I didn't end up going to the bathroom to check and wash my hands and whatnot. I washed this hand, but I didn't get in and, you know, I washed my hands, but I didn't check my face. I ended up going out and I had a bunch of people look at me, and they're probably like, "Huh, you're a moron. You got crap all over your face." And I did. And I came home and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I got crap all over my face." Okay, here. Let's have that come around here. We'll just come up like that. I did make a little mistake here that I can't ignore in the construction of the bottom lip, because I wanted the bottom lip to come up further. There we go. Because you got this that goes in front. Just want the teeth to be able to be viewed. And what's really cool about this paper is it's really robust, so you can go in and erase, and this eraser is non-destructive, so it's not going to destroy the paper. So let's go ahead and do some of the creases in the lips here. It comes around. Get that front tooth there. That one comes in front. Maybe he's got a couple cracks here and there. Alright, so the base for my drawing is just about in. And what I'll do now is I'll just go in and start putting in some of the smaller details with the side. And again, I'm not going in and, you know, drawing every hair, whatnot. I'm not going to do that. Keeping it loose is important too. I think I've said that 1,000 times. Staying loose in a drawing, not really committing to a line early is important. Now later on, whenever you start refining, obviously you want to make sure and put the right line in. But early on, just sketch and have fun, right? That's what's so great about digital. So now I'm going to switch over to my 8B woodless. I'm going to go ahead in and start putting in some value. Now, I want the light to be up here, right in, because I've got my eye shine. So I'm going to go ahead and color this in. Not color, but shade this in. I'm going to have a little bit of light down below. And then we're going to color. Shade these in. I keep saying color. There is no color. Shade these in. Alright. So now, since the light is coming from upper, probably right about here, what I'll do is I'll use the roundness of the forehead. And this will come around. I'll shade this in slightly. And then I'll just start putting in some of these values that help define this as a form a little bit better. Alright? You know, you'll have like this whole area right here is going to be pushed back. So I'm going to shade that in pretty good. Believe it or not, even this is an 8B, it doesn't have the same value saturation as this particular pencil does. Okay. Some of these wrinkles that on his nose that I want to really accentuate a little bit more. Okay. Excuse me. Have this come in. And I'll give him a scar here in a minute. There we go. So now let's go in. We'll put this value in right here. We'll go ahead and put this value in right here for his beard, just generally speaking. You know, if I was in digital, I would put that on a one layer, maybe a multiply or whatever, and I would go underneath and I would start marking in the values. Okay. parade comes around. We'll put a general, once again, there we go. Put that in. And I'll show you what I'll do here in a second, just to help bring and push and pull. Because at the end of the day, that's really what I'm doing. I'm going in, I'm putting in my simple lines, and then I'm thinking of form. I don't want to go in and keep drawing lines, because that's not my thought process. That's not, you know, if I was doing maybe a vector piece, the lines would be more important. But right now, what I'm doing is going in and trying to establish some value. So I have to think of it like a, you know, like my fist. I think of my fist, I can understand that there's volume here, there's height, width, and also depth, and then there's that rounded plane. That rounded plane is what I'm really wanting to inject here. So let's go ahead and I need to redraw every tooth. I was thinking the other day, I need to do a video where I just draw value and form instead of going in with lines, right? Thinking in terms of that form factor, that value scale, and start understanding and helping you guys understand a little bit better. Because that translation, you know, the better the form, that translation from line to form, I think, is difficult for some people. It's difficult for me sometimes, because I like lines a lot. And, you know, going into form is a little bit more difficult for me. Yeah, see? Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm putting in some material into the paper. Excuse me. Allergies. So let's go ahead and get into some brows. Not much. Ogres don't really have, well, it just depends on the design of ogre. You can have a hairy ogre. I did a hairy ogre a while back and he was wonderful. You know? It's your character design, you do whatever you want. I don't care. So maybe he's got a scar here. That's not bad. That darker line to really push that face and that ear back slightly. So, when you do a drawing similar to this, just a sketch, or you're going to actually go in and start rendering it, you always got to remember that there has to be a meaning behind what you're doing, a focus. So, obviously, this is kind of like his portrait. He's looking. You see the forebodingness of the piece. Maybe he's got a scar right here. And I don't want to sit there and draw the hair in to where it's like amazingly detailed, because it doesn't, just as long as I can see that it is hair and make out that it is hair, the time that I would spend on sitting there and drawing all the stinking hairs is not really something I want to do. Now you can do that if you want. That's, again, that's your drawing. But for me, I'm trying to get in that quick expression, that quick read, you know, sense of value, sense of light, understanding, you know, what this particular creature is doing. I can see the creature, I can read the creature, and then that works for me. And then what I'll do here in a second, I'll show you guys. I'm trying to get a little bit more value in here. Switch back to this. I'm not really, believe it or not, it just doesn't have the same feel at all. These pencils are so friggin' soft. They're so nice. You know, that's probably why they're uber expensive. So let's go ahead and put in a little bit more value here. He's got an earring right here. He's got another one right below it, excuse me. And this is, I would say this is more of a, I I don't want to say realistic because it's not. It's got a more realistic feel to it and a rendering quality. But still, it is stylized. It is designed. Realistic ogre. It's a realistic ogre. You know? Okay, so now I switch this over to my eraser. And what I'll do is I'll just start using my eraser as kind of a pencil. And I'll just start going in and putting in some little highlights here and there. And that's what's great about the Blackwing, because you can go in. Let's put the secondary highlight here. I'll have the majority highlights here. And you can go in and use it as a drawing tool. Right? Okay, so now let's go ahead and get a little more value in here. Right here. So nice. The Blackwing, it's just so nice. I mean, it's just so, gosh, it feels so good. Get that highlight right here. Okay. Now, if I wasn't doing a video and I was sitting here trying to draw and make it real rendered, then I would really take my time and think about, you know, light source. And now I am thinking about that, don't get me wrong, but here's go right here. Got that nose and the flap, you know. So, and then have a larger eraser. You know, put in that big highlight, and then you can smooth it out. That's what's really nice about graphite, especially really soft graphite. You can smooth out those edges. It's really cool. Alright, so that's him. Alright, so now we're moving on to the next one. This one's going to be more cartoony, stylized, not as realistic looking, if there ever is a realistic ogre. We're going to go back to the woodless pencil, because I really like the way, in terms of sketching, the way this one feels. And believe it or not, this says 8B right there, 8B. But I gotta be honest with you, there is no way there is no way this is an 8B. I would say this is probably a 4, a 4B, right? Alright, this one is going to be, I don't want to say more traditional ogre, because, you know, again, it depends on your stylistic cues and what you're thinking in terms of an ogre is. You know, this has the kind of the jelly, not jelly, kind of the rounded suction cup eyes. Now, if you notice whenever I'm drawing, and this is something that, one of the things that I watch a lot of are other artists. I watch other artists draw, how they explain their videos, how they, you know, they do things. Some of them just will sit there and draw, and you're watching them, and you're trying to get those technique cues in, and they're saying, do this, this, and this, this, and this, and this, and this, and that, and this, and this. And you look, and I'm going through, and I'm going, gosh, there has to be a better way of explanation. So, what I'm doing is I start out with my base. It's kind of my roadmap, okay? You know, I'm thinking in terms of three-dimensionality and form and in three-dimensional space. So I'll start out with a circle, and then a lot of times you'll see me do the sphere. The sphere will give me placement on the page. It'll give me perspective and relationship of how I'm viewing that circle in my three-dimensional space. I do not think of this piece of paper as a flat piece of paper. This is a three-dimensional space. I'm literally taking my pencil and I'm sculpting out what my mind's eye sees, okay? And getting this sphere in gives me a visual reference on the paper so I can basically put those items in three-dimensional space on the sphere. So, like if I were to put an ear would be right here. Now, as things move closer, they get bigger, and as things move further away, they get smaller. That's the perspective relationship. We've heard about different. We've all done this, right? We've drawn, how we do the sphere or the square, and how things look, like this, right? And then suddenly we have a cube. We're like, oh, we're the best artists in the world. But whenever you start getting into organics, you start running into issues of trying to, how do I put it? You understand what a face looks like. You understand what it looks like in your mind's eye, and then you start trying to inject what your brain knows about the face. If you don't have reference, this is where you start having issues. If you haven't drawn a lot, that's where you start having issues. But the 3D sphere will really help you get those things in place on the face. So, you see that I've drawn I call them lattice lines, but I'm sure I'm using the terminology incorrectly. The lines help me define where I'm going to put certain things. So, since it's 3/4 view, okay, this is where the ear goes, right? This is where the eyes go. Now you notice I made this one smaller. Remember we talked about things being closer, larger, further away, smaller. So again, being further away from me, it's going to be smaller. So that's why. Now these two things are the same size. But whenever you put them in perspective or forced perspective, you're going to have this one smaller. And I'm not drawing as a circle, right? Even though it is a circle, whenever it turns like this, it's going to start becoming an oval. So that's whenever I start turning as an oval, okay? And then I start getting into the planes of the face. You have the cheeks, you have the side of the head, you have the forehead, you have the top of the head. So I'm thinking of it in terms of a three-dimensional object, right? And you've seen, if those of you who have studied different animation techniques, you've seen them, you'll see them do this. Again, these are sort of like tools to help the artist get things in correct perspective, get things in correct space. So as I progress through and I'm drawing this creature, that's what I'm thinking. And two, I'm not going into the minutia. I'm not going into the details yet. I'm using my entire arm, larger piece of paper, and I've got my pencil held a certain way that helps prevent me from going in and doing this and noodling. I'm not in noodle mode. I want broad strokes. I want large shapes. Large shapes help define, gesture. Right? You'll see me do, Graham, maybe this eyebrow goes up just a little bit further, and I want him to be like, and I'm thinking all the time. I'm thinking character, and I'm thinking expression. And since I've already got some of these other some of these other techniques in place, they don't get in my way. The perspective is going to happen because first of all, I've drawn a lot, so that helps. So let's give him some horns. And again, here's the front plane of the face. Here's the center line. His nose is going to be probably right about here. And then it comes down. Okay, so now that I've gotten these things in place, I can understand where his eyes are. So again, here's the eye. And it's not going to be a circle, it's going to be an oval because it's turned and it's further away. And this one's going to be, they're pretty much the same size, so I can place them like this. And then I can adjust the eyebrows as needed. Okay? So let's go ahead and have this down. Okay. Actually has a genie feel to it already. I'm not making him a genie. Alright, so two, anatomy is important, and you'll hear this from different artists. Anatomy is the most important thing. Well, yeah, it is, especially whenever you're drawing realistically. You want things to, and your viewers to relate to it, but whenever you're in this stage, just think of it in terms of relationships. So, I draw humans, I draw characters, I draw animals, I draw creatures. They all have similar qualities to them. They have cheeks, they have mouths, they have teeth, they have eyes, they have foreheads, depending, even fish. It's different types of fish. Yeah, so now that I've got this mashed in. I'm going to go ahead and give him a teeth because he is an ogre. Let's get in that big tooth right there. Let's give him. So I'm still in that big shape mode. I haven't gotten down into the details yet. I don't want to get down there yet. So let's go ahead and make this nose kind of pooched up. Let's have that come around here. Okay, the same principle applies right here. So I did the same thing with the eyes. So I've turned the face. He's not facing towards me. He's facing 3/4, and I've got this nose, those ovals inside of the nose. Again, I'm not going in and doing the details. I'm just getting that shape in because I want to get the eyes in. So I want to do this eye first. He's going to be coming up because again, this eye's going up. This brow's going up, so it's going to draw that lid up. So the lid's going to be more open. Okay, so we're going to have the pupil coming in, iris. Okay, so then I can come around, and I've got that outer cheek, and drawing through and understanding where that outer cheek is, because I can't see it because it's blocked by that tooth. So now I've got that eye in. I need to remember, I just can't go in and arbitrarily put the eye in. There's a distance relationship between the inner part of this eye, which you can't see, and then it comes around here, and then it comes to the inside of this eye. So what I'll do a lot of times is I'll come here, and I'll do it really fast. A lot of times you can't even see me do it. I'll come here, and I'll draw a really slight line here that helps me understand where the other side of this is. Because again, we're in 3/4, he's tilted down slightly, so this is going to be slightly higher than this. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to, let's go ahead and get this in. Okay. And it helps too not to draw in a vacuum. So I keep referring to the other parts of my drawing. I keep referring because I want to be able to place the eyes in the correct position because I don't want it to look weird and wonky. Okay, so even though this eye right here is ovals and it's positioned like this, it's not so much the same on this one because this one's facing me a little bit more. So let's go ahead. Face that down. Okay. Color these in, or shade these in. Center part of the nose. Okay. And a lot of times you'll see me, I'll go and I'll work at different parts of the drawing because I haven't quite figured out what I'm doing in certain areas, and that's okay, especially at this stage, you know. Not understanding where stuff is or where stuff goes is okay as long as you're working through to understand where stuff goes. Alright, so now, okay, so let's go ahead. Nice dark line here, and then that lip's going to wrap slightly around. Okay. And the nose comes down. Okay, so I'm already seeing definite difference in the, so let's give him some little horns. That other horn's going to face up like this. And this one comes up, goes around. Okay. So now we're going to have the brow, these wrinkles, and his hair is going to be drawn up in a ponytail, in a whatever, an ogre tail. Okay, so now let's come to this. Now, right now, so I've got this in, I'm going to draw this socket around, that comes around, and now I'm thinking, going back to anatomy. So, first of all, this ear is a little bit too close in, so I'm going to go ahead and erase that. Because there is a distance relationship between the outside eye socket, comes around, and here's the cheekbone. Okay, and then you have the back of the head, so suddenly the ear becomes, it's in a different place. Right? And two, you need to also think, okay, am I going to be able to see the other ear? So I come around, the other ear is probably right here, and it's like right there. So you will not be able to see the other ear. So we're going to come here. Here's the cheek. Where's the jawline going to be? So the jawline typically follows that line from the ear. So just to give the hint to the jawline, because it's got hair on it, I'm going to go ahead and make it right here. And you see I keep lifting my pencil because I want to find out where the bottom of that jaw is. Excuse me. Coming around. Maybe he's got some fuzz here. So I saw this a lot whenever I was teaching. This just has to, it comes with drawing a lot, and it comes also with understanding anatomy and where stuff is in perspective. And I kept trying to tell the students, you know, you're going to be drawing a lot. And you don't fall in love with the drawing. The drawing is kind of an experiment, and the further in you get, the more you're going to learn about perspective and where things are, and what is important in the drawing and what is not important. So I start going in and I start thinking, okay, do I give him a little beard? And this goes up and around. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe. So I want this lid to come here. We'll shade that in. Got his nose. And you've got this, excuse me, you've got a little upper lip. Okay, do I want another tooth? Let's do two. There we go. Little hint of light on there. And they wrap around the tooth. The cheek does, or I'm sorry, the lip does slightly. Comes around. He's got a little chin right here, right? So all this down here would be fat. And he's got this chin, kind of juts out just slightly. And again, as you progress through the character design, it will speak to you. The character design will speak to you. And what it needs and what it wants and how the direction it needs to go. And you know, you need to listen, because that's kind of your inner artist speaking, right? Okay. He's not looking too horrible, right? Completely different feel than this ogre right here. This is more, I would say, stylized and cartoony. But you can understand the thought process behind both of these drawings are very similar in their creation language. So here's a little butt right there. There we go. And maybe he's got some whiskers coming out. You know, and this would be considered a preliminary drawing. Preliminary being not final. Right? And I would adjust the forms, I would adjust positioning, I would maybe change the horns somewhat, I would reestablish the gesture, maybe have this eye go up a little bit further, right? So let's go ahead and erase this down a little bit. So, two, maybe we've got, this is all bunched up slightly. There's shadow coming down. Okay. I think that's what I wanted to show you guys, kind of the thought process behind how I draw. And I tried to vocalize some of my thoughts as I went through, because I watched some of the other artists draw. I'm not going to name who they are, but I watched them a lot. And even in some of their courses, they don't really explain how they're thinking in that drawing process. Now, I have purchased other tutorials, and recently, and some of the other people that I've watched definitely understand that dynamic, because that dynamic of teaching. You just can't sit there and draw and expect the person that is watching to understand your thought process unless you actually say something, if that makes any sense. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys, because I want you guys to kind of get a feel in terms of how I'm thinking. Now I'm putting in little lip lines right now to show cracking, and I'm not drawing them straight down, because again, this is a rounded form. This is a rounded form. You can see basically as I go through, I'm trying to establish that roundness, and how that can be translated pretty simply. Alright, okay. I think that's all I wanted to show you guys today. Hopefully you're getting something from these videos recently. If you do like the videos, please like and subscribe, like what you see, and as always, go out, draw something fun, or stay in the studio and draw something fun. I did see that some of the different municipalities and cities around the United States and around the world are starting to shore back up in terms of COVID, which I think is interesting. I have many opinions about the whole virus thing, but again, that's not really what this channel is about, and hopefully you guys are staying safe, staying healthy, and if you can get out, if your government allows you to get out, definitely get out, draw something, go and get some fresh air, get outside, get some vitamin D, right? If your government allows you. I always had it in my brain that, freedom was one of those things that people just don't want to give up. But at the end of the day, for their safety and security, for a time being, just go out and, go in your front yard, right? if that's what you can do. Do what you can do, right? That's what I say. Do what you can do. Alright, you guys. Thank you guys, and we'll see you soon.